She told me she needed space. Those 4 words felt like a knife in my chest. I was 26 years old, deeply invested in a woman I thought I understood. When she asked for distance, I gave it to her. I stopped calling. I stopped texting. I disappeared completely. I thought I was respecting her wishes. 3 weeks later, she was in my apartment crying. Not tears of relief that I had given her space. Tears of anger. Tears of hurt. Tears that confused me completely. "You just let me go," she said. "You did not even fight for me." I sat there stunned. She asked for space. I gave her space. Now she was furious that I gave her exactly what she requested. That night taught me something that changed how I understood women forever. What she says and what she wants are often 2 completely different things. Not because she is lying, not because she is manipulating, but because attraction operates below conscious awareness. Her words come from her rational mind. Her desires come from somewhere far deeper. Robert Greene wrote that people rarely say what they truly want. You must learn to read between the lines, to pick up on the signals they send unconsciously. This is the foundation of understanding human nature. That woman did not want space. She wanted to know that I could not give her space. She wanted to discover that my desire for her was so strong that her request would be impossible to honor. She was testing my obsession, and I failed by not having any. Today I am going to reveal 7 dark signs that a woman secretly craves your obsession. These are not obvious signals. They are hidden beneath words that seem to say the opposite. They are tests disguised as rejections, pushes that secretly want to be resisted. Most men never learn to read these signs. They take her words at face value and lose her while trying to respect her stated wishes. You will not make that mistake. Welcome back to the Shadow Mind. Before we dive into these 7 signs, I need to establish something important. When I say obsession, I do not mean stalking. I do not mean ignoring her boundaries. I do not mean pursuing a woman who genuinely wants nothing to do with you. I mean passionate investment, the kind of desire that makes her feel wanted at a primal level, the kind of attention that tells her she has captured something valuable, the kind of pursuit that satisfies an ancient hunger most women will never openly admit to having. Carl Jung wrote extensively about the anima and animus, the feminine element within men and the masculine element within women. He understood that beneath our conscious personalities exist deeper archetypal forces that drive our behavior. One of the deepest feminine archetypes is the desire to be chosen, not casually, not conveniently, chosen with intensity, chosen with passion, chosen with the kind of focus that borders on obsession. Modern culture tells women they should not want this. It tells them that wanting masculine pursuit is regressive, that they should be independent, that they should not need a man's attention to feel valuable. But archetypes do not care about cultural messaging. They operate beneath conscious thought. They create desires that the rational mind often rejects, but the body still craves. Sigmund Freud understood that human beings are fundamentally driven by unconscious forces. We construct elaborate rational explanations for behaviors that originate in places we cannot see. A woman may genuinely believe she wants independence, while her deeper self aches for passionate pursuit. This creates confusion for men. They hear her words and try to comply. They give her independence because she asked for it. They back off because she said she needed space. They respect her stated boundaries, while she secretly wishes those boundaries would be tested. The 7 signs I will reveal today are windows into this hidden world. They are moments when her unconscious desire leaks through her conscious presentation. Moments when what she truly craves becomes visible if you know how to look. I have organized these signs into 3 categories: The first category is verbal contradictions, things she says that actually mean the opposite. The second category is behavioral tests, things she does to measure the strength of your desire. The third category is emotional invitations, feelings she expresses that are actually requests for pursuit. Each sign will include the surface presentation, what she appears to be communicating, and the shadow meaning, what she actually wants you to do. Machiavelli wrote that men in general judge more by the eye than by the hand. They see what appears, but do not touch what is real. Most men see only the surface of female communication. They judge by the eye. Today you will learn to judge by the hand, to touch the reality beneath the appearance. Friedrich Nietzsche wrote that there are no facts, only interpretations. The same female behavior can be interpreted as rejection or invitation, depending on your depth of understanding. The man who interprets correctly gains everything. The man who interprets incorrectly loses her while believing he is respecting her. I will also share my own failures. The times I misread these signs and paid the price. The lessons I learned through painful experience so that you do not have to learn them the same way. This is not manipulation. This is understanding. Understanding her better than she understands herself. Understanding the gap between what she says and what she needs. Understanding that your role is sometimes to give her what she craves rather than what she requests. Stay with me for the next few minutes. What you learn here will transform how you read the women in your life. Let us begin. Sign number 1. She tells you not to wait for her. Let me paint the picture. Things have been intense between you. Connection is building. Then something shifts. Maybe life gets complicated for her. Maybe she feels the relationship moving faster than expected. Maybe she gets scared of her own feelings, and she says some version of this. You should not wait around for me. You deserve someone who can give you more. Do not put your life on hold. The surface presentation is clear. She is releasing you. She is giving you permission to move on. She is telling you that waiting would be foolish. Most men hear this and comply. They think they are being respectful. They start looking elsewhere. They prove that they were not that invested anyway. And something in her dies. Because what she actually said was, "Prove to me that I am worth waiting for." Arthur Schopenhauer wrote about the nature of desire. He observed that we do not want what we have. We want what requires effort to obtain. When she tells you not to wait, she is testing whether you value her enough to wait anyway. This is not logic. This is not rational. This is primal programming that operates beneath conscious thought. Let me tell you about a man named James who came to me completely confused. He had been seeing a woman for 4 months. Deep connection. Strong chemistry. Then she got a job offer in another city. She told him not to wait for her. She said long distance never works. She encouraged him to find someone local. He listened. He started dating again within 2 weeks. When she found out, she was devastated. Not relieved that he had moved on. Devastated that her absence meant so little to him. The job offer had actually been a test of his commitment. She wanted to see if he would fight for them despite the obstacle. He did not fight. He complied. And she lost all respect for him instantly. Robert Greene wrote that people are always trying to conceal their true intentions, not through malice, but through fear. She feared rejection if she openly asked him to wait. So she gave him permission to leave while secretly hoping he would refuse. Here is what James should have done. When she told him not to wait, he should have said something like this: "I hear you, but I am not ready to walk away from what we have built. Let us see what happens." Not desperate clinging, not ignoring her words entirely, but a calm statement. that her request would not be automatically granted, that she mattered enough for him to make his own decision about waiting. That response would have shown her exactly what she needed to see, that his desire was stronger than her doubts, that she had captured something that would not easily let go. Nietzsche wrote that the secret of reaping the greatest fruitfulness from existence is to live dangerously. Playing it safe by complying with her stated wish is the most dangerous choice of all. The safe response loses her. The dangerous response keeps her. Sign number 2. She mentions other men who are interested in her. This one catches many men off guard. You are talking with her. Things seem to be going well. Then she casually mentions that another man asked for her number, or that her ex has been texting, or that a co-worker has been flirting with her. The surface presentation seems like disinterest. Why would she talk about other men if she wanted you? It feels like she is signaling that you have competition, that you are not special, that she has options. Most men react in one of two destructive ways. The first reaction is jealousy. They get visibly upset. They demand to know more. They show that the mention of other men threatens their security. This reaction fails because it displays weakness. It shows that they can be emotionally manipulated easily. The second reaction is withdrawal. They pull back emotionally. They act like they do not care at all. They become cold to protect themselves from potential rejection. This reaction fails because it shows that they are not willing to compete, that their interest is fragile enough to be discouraged by competition. Both reactions miss what she actually wants. Carl Jung wrote about the shadow containing everything we reject about ourselves. Most women have rejected their desire to feel fought over. They have been told this desire is immature or regressive. But the shadow does not disappear because we reject it. It expresses itself in hidden ways. When she mentions other men, she is inviting you to demonstrate something: not jealousy, not indifference, confident persistence. She wants to see that competition does not scare you, that you know your value regardless of who else is interested, that your pursuit of her will not waver because others are also pursuing. Let me share how this played out with a client named Michael. A woman he had been dating for 3 weeks mentioned that her ex wanted to reconnect. Michael felt his stomach drop, but instead of reacting with jealousy or withdrawal, he paused. He took a breath. Then he responded calmly. I am sure he does. You are an impressive woman. But I am not worried about your ex. I am focused on building something with you. He did not ask questions about the ex. He did not show insecurity. He did not pretend he did not hear her. He simply acknowledged the information and reaffirmed his own direction. Her entire energy shifted. She moved closer to him physically. She stopped mentioning the ex entirely. The test was passed. Machiavelli wrote that fortune favors the bold. When she presents competition, the bold man does not flinch. He does not retreat. He continues his pursuit with the same steady confidence he had before. That confidence is precisely what she was testing for. Sign number 3. She shares her insecurities with you. This sign is subtle, but powerful. Pay close attention. You are talking and she reveals something vulnerable. Maybe she admits she feels inadequate compared to other women. Maybe she mentions a physical feature she dislikes about herself. Maybe she confesses that she worries she is too much or not enough. The surface presentation seems like she is seeking reassurance, simple validation of her worth, a compliment to make her feel better. Most men respond with generic comfort. No, you are beautiful. Do not be silly. You are amazing. Any guy would be lucky to have you. They think they are being supportive. They are actually being forgettable, because generic reassurance does nothing. She has heard it before. It costs nothing to give. It requires no real investment from you. What she secretly craves is specific obsession. Sigmund Freud identified that human beings have a deep need to be seen in their particularity, not as a general category, not as interchangeable with others, as a specific, unique individual whose specific qualities have been noticed and valued. When she shares an insecurity, she is asking a question beneath the surface. Do you see me specifically? Do you want me specifically? Or am I just a generic woman you are pursuing? The man who triggers her craving for obsession does not offer generic comfort. He offers specific observation. Let me show you the difference. Generic response to, I hate my nose. Your nose is fine. You are beautiful. Specific obsession response, I have noticed your nose. I have noticed the way it scrunches when you laugh. I find it genuinely attractive, not in spite of how it looks, because of how it looks. Do you feel the difference? The generic response could be said to any woman about any feature. It requires no real attention to who she actually is. The specific response demonstrates that you have studied her, that you have noticed details, that your attraction is not casual but focused. That is the obsession she craves but will never openly request. Thomas Hobbes wrote that the reputation of power is power. The reputation of obsession creates obsession. When you demonstrate that you have noticed her specifically, you build a reputation as someone who truly sees her. That reputation is intoxicating. Here is a personal failure I will share. Early in my journey, a woman I was dating mentioned she felt her voice was annoying, too high-pitched. She said men had commented on it negatively in the past. I responded with generic reassurance. Your voice is fine. Do not worry about what other people think. She smiled politely, and the conversation moved on. But I noticed something had closed. A door that had been opening shut again. Later I understood what happened. She had offered me an opportunity to demonstrate specific attention. She wanted me to tell her something particular about her voice that I had noticed. She wanted to feel that I had listened closely enough to have opinions about her specific qualities. I gave her generic comfort instead, and I became another forgettable man who did not really see her. Do not make my mistake. When she shares insecurity, respond with specificity. Show her that your attention is not casual. That is the obsession she is secretly inviting. Sign number 4. She creates small conflicts from nothing. Let me describe a pattern you may recognize. Everything seems fine. The relationship is flowing smoothly. No obvious problems. Then suddenly, she finds something to be upset about. Something small. Something that would not have bothered her last week. Something that feels manufactured. Maybe you took too long to respond to a text. Maybe you made a joke she decides to take seriously. Maybe you forgot a minor detail she mentioned once. Maybe your tone was slightly off, in a way she cannot quite explain. The surface presentation looks like genuine frustration. She seems actually bothered, actually hurt, actually upset at you for some specific failure. Most men engage the content of the conflict. They defend themselves against the accusation. They explain why the text was delayed. They clarify that the joke was not meant seriously. They apologize for forgetting the detail. They adjust their tone to avoid future offense, and by engaging, they fail the test completely. Because the conflict was never about the content. The conflict was about something much deeper. Carl Jung wrote about the concept of projection. We place our internal struggles onto external objects to avoid facing them directly. When she creates conflict from nothing, she is often projecting an internal question onto an external situation. The question is this: will you remain stable when I am unstable? She needs to know that your foundation does not crack under pressure. She needs to see that her emotional storms do not sweep you away. She needs to test whether you are solid enough to weather chaos without crumbling. Robert Greene observed that people constantly test those around them to see how far they can push. This testing is not malicious. It is evaluative. She is gathering information about your psychological structure. If you engage the manufactured conflict as though it were real, you reveal something troubling. You show that she can create reality by creating emotion, that she can destabilize you simply by becoming destabilized herself, that her chaos becomes your chaos automatically. This is deeply unattractive at an unconscious level, because a man who can be destabilized by small conflicts will certainly crumble during large ones. Let me tell you about a transformation I witnessed. A client named David was constantly exhausted by his girlfriend's manufactured conflicts. Every week, there was something new, something he did wrong, something he needed to apologize for. He felt like he was walking through a minefield. I watched them interact once. She made a comment about him not being attentive enough at a party. He immediately began defending himself, explaining who he talked to and why, apologizing for not being more focused on her, promising to do better next time. Her face showed something interesting during his defense. Not satisfaction, disappointment. I told David something that changed his relationship completely. Stop engaging the content of manufactured conflicts. Address the emotion beneath them instead. The next time she created conflict from nothing, he tried a different approach. Instead of defending himself, he said calmly, "Something feels off right now. I do not think this is really about me responding to texts slowly. What is actually going on with you?" She was startled. No one had ever looked beneath her conflict before. Everyone always engaged the surface and let her control the frame. After a moment of silence, she admitted she had been feeling disconnected from him, worried that his attention was fading. The text response time was just a container for a deeper anxiety. By refusing to engage the manufactured content, David demonstrated exactly what she needed to see, that he could remain stable during her instability, that he could see through surface chaos to underlying truth, that her emotional weather did not control his emotional climate. Epictetus taught that it is not things that disturb us, but our judgments about things. The manufactured conflict is not the thing. It is a test about the thing. Judge correctly, and you pass. Judge incorrectly, and you fail. She creates these conflicts because she secretly craves a man who cannot be moved by them, who remains solid while she spins, who offers ground when she has lost her footing. That is the obsession she is testing for. Not obsession with her drama. Obsession with her so complete that her drama cannot shake it. Sign number 5. She tells you she is not looking for anything serious. This might be the most misunderstood signal in modern dating. You meet a woman. Connection sparks immediately. Chemistry is obvious. Then she says some version of this phrase, "I am not really looking for anything serious right now." The surface presentation seems clear. She wants casual. She wants freedom. She does not want commitment or intensity. She is warning you not to get too invested. Most men hear this and adjust their behavior accordingly. They become casual. They reduce their investment. They treat her as temporary. They protect themselves from wanting more than she is offering. And by doing so, they eliminate any chance of having her completely. Because her words and her desires are operating on different levels. Sigmund Freud wrote about the gap between what we consciously believe and what we unconsciously want. Consciousness is the small, visible portion of the iceberg. The vast mass below the surface drives the ship. When she says she is not looking for anything serious, her conscious mind may genuinely believe this, but her unconscious often craves the opposite. She wants someone to be so captivated by her that casual is not possible. She wants a man whose desire is too strong to be contained by her stated limitations. Arthur Schopenhauer wrote that we can do what we want, but we cannot want what we want. She cannot consciously want your obsession because that would make her vulnerable. But she can unconsciously crave it while consciously denying the craving. Let me share a pattern I have witnessed repeatedly. A woman says she wants casual. A man takes her at her word and remains casual. Another man ignores her words and pursues with intensity anyway. Not desperately, not needily, but with clear and unapologetic investment. Who does she end up with? Almost always the second man. Not because he ignored her boundaries, but because he understood something about her that she did not understand about herself. He read the shadow meaning beneath her surface statement. I experienced this directly. A woman I met years ago told me explicitly that she was not looking for a relationship. She had just ended something serious. She wanted freedom. She wanted space. She wanted light and easy. I heard her words and decided to test them. I did not become casual. I did not reduce my investment. I continued to pursue her with clear intention. Not aggressively, not desperately, but unmistakably. Within 3 weeks, she asked me why I was still pursuing her so intensely when she told me she wanted casual. I looked at her directly and said, "Because I see something here worth pursuing. What you say you want and what you actually need might be different things." She did not respond immediately, but her eyes changed. Something softened that had been guarded. 2 months later, we were in a committed relationship. She later admitted that my refusal to accept her casual limitation was exactly what she needed. She needed someone whose desire could not be contained by her fear. Machiavelli wrote that fortune favors the bold. Taking her casual statement at face value is not respectful. It is cowardly. The bold man trusts his own perception more than her defensive framing. She says she does not want serious because she fears getting hurt. Your obsession is the antidote to that fear. It proves that this time things will be different. Sign number 6. She tells you that you are too good for her. This statement confuses many men completely. She says some version of this: "You deserve better than me. I do not know why you are with me. You could have anyone. Why me? You are too good for someone like me." The surface presentation seems like low self-esteem. She appears to be genuinely questioning her own worth. She seems to need reassurance about why you have chosen her. Most men respond by building her up. "No, you are amazing. I am the lucky one. You are exactly what I want." They think they are being supportive and validating. But these responses often miss what is actually happening. Carl Jung wrote that the psyche is a self-regulating system. When someone expresses one extreme consciously, the opposite often lives in their shadow. Conscious statements of unworthiness frequently mask unconscious tests of your commitment. When she says you are too good for her, she is often asking a hidden question. How much do you really want me? Enough to fight against my doubts? Enough to insist despite my resistance? She is inviting your obsession by creating an obstacle to it. Jordan Peterson speaks about the importance of pushing back against those you care about. Not cruelly, not dismissively, but with honest challenge that respects their capacity for growth. Accepting her self-diminishment without challenge is actually disrespectful. It signals that you agree with her low assessment of herself. Let me show you a different response. When she says, "You are too good for me," do not simply disagree. Reframe entirely. Try something like this. I have thought about who I want. I have considered what matters to me. I chose you deliberately. You do not get to decide what I deserve. That is my decision to make. Do you feel the difference? This response does not beg her to feel better about herself. It does not accept the frame that she is beneath you. It asserts your choice as sovereign. It tells her that your desire is not accidental or confused, but intentional and clear. Machiavelli wrote that men judge by results, not by methods. The result you want is for her to feel chosen completely. The method is refusing to accept her self-diminishment as truth. I watched this play out with a couple I know. The woman constantly expressed doubt about why he was with her. She was testing relentlessly, asking variations of, "Why me?" over and over. For months he responded with reassurance. Because you are beautiful. Because you are smart. Because I love you. Generic validations that answered her surface question. The tests never stopped. Because the surface question was not the real question. Finally, in frustration, he said something different. I am tired of this question. I chose you. Every day I wake up and choose you again. Stop asking me to justify my choice and start trusting it. Something shifted in her immediately. The tests dramatically reduced. Not because he was harsh, because he finally addressed the real question. She did not need to hear why he chose her. She needed to hear that his choice was absolute, unshakable, not subject to revision based on her doubts. That is the obsession she was testing for. Total commitment that her insecurity could not destabilize. Thomas Hobbes wrote about the state of nature as a war of all against all. Her doubts are at war with her desire for security. Your obsession is the peace treaty, the force strong enough to end the internal conflict. When she says you are too good for her, she is begging for that peace. She is inviting you to overwhelm her doubts with the force of your commitment. Do not miss the invitation. Sign number 7. She pulls away precisely when things are going well. This is perhaps the most confusing sign of all, and the most important to understand. Let me describe the pattern. Everything is flowing beautifully. Connection deepens every day. Intimacy grows. Walls come down. She opens herself to you in ways that feel significant. The relationship reaches a new level of closeness. Then suddenly, without warning, she withdraws. She becomes distant, less responsive, less warm. She creates space where there was none before. She pulls back precisely at the moment when pulling closer would seem natural. Most men panic when this happens. They assume they did something wrong. They search their memory for mistakes. They reach out more frequently, trying to close the gap. They ask what is wrong. They seek reassurance that the connection is still intact. Every one of these responses pushes her further away. Because the withdrawal is not about something you did wrong. The withdrawal is a test triggered by things going right. Carl Jung wrote extensively about the fear of wholeness. He observed that human beings often sabotage their own happiness because completeness feels threatening. We are more comfortable with familiar suffering than unfamiliar joy. When a woman begins to feel genuine connection, something ancient gets triggered, a protective mechanism that whispers warnings. If you let him this close, he can destroy you. If you need him this much, you are vulnerable. If this feels this good, the loss will be unbearable. Her withdrawal is not rejection, it is fear of her own desire. Sigmund Freud identified this as approach avoidance conflict. We simultaneously want something and fear wanting it. We move toward it and away from it in oscillating patterns. The closer we get to what we want, the more the fear intensifies. She pulls away because she is falling, and falling feels like losing control. Robert Greene wrote that people who suddenly distance themselves are often revealing the depth of their interest, not its absence. The withdrawal is proportional to the attraction. She does not pull away from men she feels nothing for. She pulls away from men who have gotten dangerously close to her heart. Let me tell you about my most painful experience with this sign. I was falling for a woman who seemed to be falling equally fast. 3 months of deepening connection. Every week brought us closer. I began to imagine a future with her. Then she went cold. Overnight. No explanation. No obvious cause. I panicked. I texted more. I called more. I asked what was wrong. I showed her my fear of losing her with every desperate action. She ended things 2 weeks later. It took me years to understand what happened. My panic confirmed her fear. She was testing whether I was stable enough to hold her when she could not hold herself, whether I would remain grounded when she became ungrounded, whether my center was solid enough for both of us. I failed by needing her reassurance more than she needed mine. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the object of life is not to be on the side of the majority, but to escape finding oneself in the ranks of the insane. When she withdraws, the majority of men respond with desperate pursuit. That is the insane response. The sane response is counterintuitive. Here is what I should have done. What you should do. When she pulls away after closeness, do not chase. Do not panic. Do not flood her with attention. Instead, give her the space she is creating. But give it from a position of strength, not abandonment. Continue living your life fully. Remain warm, but not desperate, when you do interact. Show her through your stability that her withdrawal does not destabilize you. Demonstrate that you can hold your center even when she loses hers. Nietzsche wrote that whoever does not have 2/3 of his day for himself is a slave. When she withdraws, use that time for yourself. Not as punishment, not as manipulation, as genuine investment in your own life. This response does something powerful. It shows her that her fear was unfounded, that closeness with you does not mean losing herself, that your desire does not require her constant presence to survive. She craves a man whose obsession is strong enough to survive her tests, whose wanting does not crumble when she creates distance, whose center holds even when she pulls away. That is the obsession she is testing for. Not desperate clinging. Stable, unshakable desire that remains constant regardless of her emotional weather. When she sees that you can hold space without collapsing into it, something relaxes in her. The fear that triggered withdrawal begins to dissolve. She realizes she can fall without being consumed. She can open without being devoured. And then she returns, usually closer than before. Now, let me show you the pattern beneath all 7 signs. On the surface, these signs appear different. Different words, different behaviors, different emotional expressions. But beneath them all runs a single current. She is testing whether your desire is strong enough to survive resistance. Every sign is a form of resistance, a barrier placed between you and her complete surrender, a wall built to see if you will climb it. Most men see resistance and retreat. They assume resistance means rejection. They take her words at face value and miss the deeper invitation. But you now see differently. When she tells you not to wait, she is testing whether you will wait anyway. When she mentions other men, she is testing whether competition shakes your confidence. When she shares insecurities, she is testing whether you see her specifically or generically. When she creates conflicts from nothing, she is testing whether her chaos destabilizes your calm. When she says she wants casual, she is testing whether your desire can overwhelm her fear. When she says you are too good for her, she is testing whether your choice is absolute. When she pulls away after closeness, she is testing whether your center holds without her. Every test asks the same question. Is your obsession real? Arthur Schopenhauer wrote that the two enemies of human happiness are pain and boredom. For women in relationships, the two enemies are being wanted too weakly and being wanted too desperately. Your obsession must thread the needle between these extremes. Not desperate obsession that suffocates her, not casual interest that leaves her hungry. Stable, confident, unshakable desire that remains constant through her tests. Machiavelli understood that people test their leaders constantly. They probe for weakness. They push against boundaries. They need to know that authority is real before they submit to it. The prince who fails tests loses his throne. The same principle applies to attraction. She tests because she needs to know that your desire is real before she surrenders to it. The man who fails tests loses her. Robert Greene wrote about the concept of strategic patience, the ability to absorb pressure without reacting, to wait while others exhaust themselves, to remain constant while circumstances change. That is exactly what these tests require. Strategic patience. The willingness to absorb her resistance without retreating, to wait through her withdrawal without panicking, to remain constant while her emotions fluctuate. Let me give you a practical framework for responding to any test. First, recognize the test. When her words and her energy do not match, a test is occurring. When she creates resistance that seems disproportionate, a test is occurring. When she pushes you away while watching closely to see if you go, a test is occurring. Second, do not engage the surface. Her words are not the message. Her behavior is not the meaning. Look beneath the presentation to the question she is actually asking. Third, respond to the shadow need. She needs to see your desire survive resistance. She needs to see your center hold through chaos. She needs to see your commitment remain absolute despite her doubts. Fourth, maintain your own stability. The most important thing you can show her is that her tests do not move you. Not because you are cold, because you are solid. Not because you do not care. Because your care does not depend on her constant validation. Carl Jung wrote that the meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. Your stability transforms her instability. Your groundedness transforms her anxiety. Your obsession transforms her fear. She places these tests because she craves that transformation. She wants to be changed by contact with someone stronger than her storms. Be that man, not through words, through demonstrated reality, through tests passed rather than failed, through desire so evident that no resistance can obscure it. That is the obsession she secretly craves. And now you know exactly how to provide it. Now let me give you the practical path forward. Understanding these signs intellectually is only the beginning. Knowledge without application changes nothing. You must train yourself to see differently and respond differently in real time. Here is your transformation path. Week 1. Train your perception. Most men move through interactions with women on autopilot. They hear words and take them literally. They see behavior and interpret it superficially. They miss the shadow layer entirely. This week, your only task is observation. Do not try to change your responses yet. Simply notice. When a woman speaks, ask yourself silently, what might she mean beneath these words? When she behaves in ways that seem contradictory, ask yourself, what is she actually testing? Keep a journal. Write down 3 interactions each day and your interpretation of the shadow meaning. You will be wrong sometimes. That is fine. The practice is building a new perceptual muscle. Robert Greene wrote that half of your mastery depends on what you observe in others. This week, you are developing the observational foundation that everything else builds upon. Week 2. Practice non-reactivity. Once you begin seeing tests, you will feel the urge to respond immediately, to prove you understand, to show her you will not fail like other men. Resist this urge. The most powerful response to any test is a pause, a breath, a moment of stillness before action. Marcus Aurelius wrote about creating space between stimulus and response. In that space lives your freedom. In that space lives your power. This week, you are building that space. When you perceive a test, do nothing for at least 5 seconds. Feel the impulse to react. Feel the anxiety of uncertainty. Feel the desire to prove yourself. And hold all of it without acting. This pause will feel uncomfortable. That discomfort is the training working. Week 3. Experiment with shadow responses. Now you begin responding differently. When she creates resistance, do not retreat. When she tests your commitment, do not waver. When she pushes you away, do not collapse into desperate pursuit. Start small. Pick one type of test from the 7 signs and focus on responding differently to that specific pattern. Do not try to transform everything at once. Mastery comes through focused repetition. Carl Jung wrote that what you resist persists. Most men resist tests by trying to avoid them or escape them quickly. You will persist through tests by holding your ground calmly. Week 4. Calibrate through feedback. Pay close attention to how she responds to your new behavior. When you refuse to engage manufactured conflict and address the emotion beneath it, watch her face. Watch her body. Watch what happens in the hours and days after. When you respond to her insecurities with specific observation rather than generic comfort, notice how she opens or closes. When you maintain stability through her withdrawal, observe whether she returns closer or further away. This feedback tells you whether your interpretation was correct, whether your response hit the shadow need or missed it entirely. Sigmund Freud understood that human beings communicate constantly through channels beyond words. Her body, her tone, her timing, her eyes, all of these speak the truth her words may conceal. Learn to read these channels and adjust accordingly. Week 5. Integration and embodiment. By now, the new perception and new responses should be feeling more natural, less forced, more instinctive. This week, stop thinking about tests consciously. Simply be the man who cannot be shaken by them. Trust that your training has built new patterns that will operate automatically. Nietzsche wrote about the 3 metamorphoses of the spirit: the camel who carries burdens, the lion who fights for freedom, the child who creates new values. You have been the camel, carrying the burden of new learning. You have been the lion, fighting old patterns. Now become the child. Play with these principles freely without heavy deliberation. Let the knowledge sink below conscious thought. Let it become who you are, rather than what you do. Before we close, I must give you critical warnings. First warning: these signs are not universal. Not every woman who asks for space secretly wants you to stay. Not every mention of other men is a test of your commitment. Not every withdrawal is an invitation to pursue. Sometimes her words mean exactly what they say. Sometimes no means no. Sometimes space means space. The difference lies in context and pattern. If you have genuine connection and she creates resistance, that resistance is likely a test. If you have no established connection and she creates distance, that distance is likely genuine disinterest. Machiavelli warned against applying rules rigidly without reading circumstances. The prince who follows formulas without judgment loses his kingdom. The man who treats every situation identically loses women and respect. Read the context. Trust your perception. But hold your interpretations loosely enough to update them when evidence suggests you are wrong. Second warning. Obsession must be grounded in self-respect. The desire she craves is not desperate attachment. It is not willingness to abandon yourself for her approval. It is not need disguised as want. She craves the obsession of a man who wants her intensely while remaining complete without her, who pursues her fiercely while maintaining his own center, who invests deeply while still possessing a life worth living independent of her. Thomas Hobbes wrote about the state of nature as a condition of constant insecurity. A man without self-respect lives in that state permanently. His obsession comes from emptiness, not fullness, from fear, not strength, from need, not choice. That kind of obsession repels rather than attracts. It fails every test because it comes from the wrong foundation. Build your center first. Then let your desire flow from that solid ground. Obsession grounded in self-respect is magnetic. Obsession rooted in emptiness is poison. Third warning. Do not manipulate. Understand. There is a profound difference between manipulating a woman and understanding her. Manipulation uses knowledge to control, to extract what you want without genuine care for what she needs, to exploit her psychology for selfish gain. Understanding uses knowledge to connect, to give her what she truly needs even when she cannot ask for it directly, to meet her shadow with your strength rather than your exploitation. Carl Jung wrote that everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. Apply this principle in reverse. Everything you understand about her psychology should lead to deeper connection, not darker manipulation. The man who manipulates eventually gets exposed. The trust collapses. The relationship dies. He wins battles while losing the war. The man who understands builds something real. The trust deepens. The relationship strengthens. He wins by giving her exactly what she craves. Choose understanding. Always. Let me leave you with a final truth. Everything I have shared today comes down to one principle. She wants to be wanted beyond her resistance. That is the craving she will never speak aloud. The hunger she may not consciously recognize. The ache that drives her tests, her contradictions, her pushes and pulls. She wants to know that her walls cannot keep you out, that her doubts cannot shake your desire, that her fear cannot extinguish your pursuit. Not because she wants to be conquered, but because she wants to surrender to something stronger than her own defenses. Arthur Schopenhauer wrote that life swings between pain and boredom. The pain of wanting what we cannot have. The boredom of having what we no longer want. Your obsession solves both problems. It gives her something worth wanting by proving your desire is real. And it keeps her wanting by proving your desire cannot be taken for granted. That is the balance she craves. To have you completely while feeling she could lose you. To be certain of your desire while being uncertain she fully deserves it. Robert Greene wrote that seduction is a game of psychology, not beauty. The deepest seduction happens when you understand her better than she understands herself, when you see the shadow beneath her surface, when you respond to what she needs rather than what she says. You now have that understanding. You now see what most men miss. You now possess knowledge that separates the forgotten from the unforgettable. But knowledge alone is not enough. You must embody it. Live it. Practice it until it becomes not what you do, but who you are. Nietzsche wrote that he who has a why can bear almost any how. Your why is connection. Real connection. The kind of bond that forms when a man proves his desire is strong enough to survive any test. The how is everything I have taught you today. The perception, the non-reactivity, the shadow responses, the grounded obsession. Walk this path with patience. You will fail tests. You will misread signs. You will respond from old patterns when new ones would serve better. But each failure teaches. Each mistake clarifies. Each misstep brings you closer to mastery. And when you arrive, when these principles live in your bones rather than your memory, something shifts permanently. Women will feel it. They will sense in you something rare. A man who sees beneath their surface. A man whose desire cannot be deflected by their defenses. A man who offers exactly what they crave, but cannot request. That man does not chase. He attracts. That man does not beg. He invites. That man does not lose women to their tests. He draws them closer through everyone. Become that man. Not for women. For yourself. Because the capacity to see beneath the surface is valuable in every domain of life. The ability to remain stable through chaos serves you everywhere. The strength to desire without desperation transforms every relationship you will ever have. This is the shadow mind path. Understanding human nature at its deepest level. Using that understanding to connect rather than control. Building yourself into someone worthy of the desire you seek. If this video has opened something in you, subscribe. Join a community of men committed to this level of growth. Leave a comment below. Tell me which sign has confused you most in the past. Your honesty might help another man recognize what he has been missing. And remember the truth that underlies everything. She craves your obsession. She just cannot ask for it directly. Your job is to provide it anyway. See beneath the surface. Respond to the shadow. Give her what she truly needs. That is how you become unforgettable. I will see you in the next video.